Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our fifth installment in Freedom to Choose Our Starting Point, live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg, my rabbi. Rabbi, I really appreciate you taking the time to, out of your busy schedule, I know you've got a trip planned to Lithuania, and your phone's always ringing off the hook. And I am so grateful that you take the time to share with us about freedom to choose our starting point. We're so excited. How are you feeling today, Rabbi? You look much better, and I'm glad that you're well over the cold that you had had.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Blessing for everybody from Jerusalem. Yes, I do feel much better, and it's a blessing always to see you as well done. And thank you for sharing with me, and hopefully we'll have a very good time tonight.
Your picture looks nice and clear today. It seems clearer than before. I can see you've got a nice bookcase behind you. You look great. You look great. The stream's coming over fine. So please share with us some of the great stuff out of the Torah that we are just yearning to hear from.
Okay, so today I wanted to do something a bit different, and to take and to show in practice. You know, we spoke a lot of things about this starting point, and I want to show in practice something that we are learning in the Bible, and the way that the Hebrew nation is learning this Bible. And for that, I'm asking to open Deuteronomy chapter 8. And if you can, I'm sure that you have
Deuteronomy chapter 8. Got it.
Yes. And now, if you can read from verse 7 till verse 20. I won't bother you.
That's okay. For the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and depths, springing forth in the valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills thou mayest dig brass. And thou shalt eat and be satisfied, and bless the Lord thy God for the good land which he has given thee. Beware lest thou forget the Lord thy God in not keeping his commandments and his ordinances and his statutes, which I commanded thee this day, lest when thou hast eaten and are satisfied, and hast built goodly houses and dwelt therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied, then thy heart be lifted up, and thou forget the Lord thy God, who brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, who led thee through the great and dreadful wilderness, wherein were serpents, fiery serpents, and scorpions, and thirsty ground where was no water, who brought thee forth water out of the rock of flint, who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers knew not, that he might afflict thee, and that he might prove thee, to do thee good at thy later end. And thou shalt say in thy heart, my power and the might of my hand hath gotten me this wealth. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that gives thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore unto thy fathers, as it is to this day. And it shall be, if thou shalt forget the Lord thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them, and worship them, I forewarn you this day that you shall surely perish. As the nations that the Lord maketh to perish before you, so shall you perish, because you would not hearken unto the voice of the Lord your God.
Okay.
Wow, that's a pretty amazing and powerful passage, Rabbi.
It's exactly. And I have a few questions, and if it's possible that you will answer me, and then we'll manage to discuss and to understand.
I'll do the best I can.
What's happening here. So first of all, what do you have to say about verse number 17? That you will say in your heart, my power and my hands did me this thing. What do you think about this verse?
Well, I think nothing typifies self-ego more than this. You know, we have a tendency to think, look what I've done, when in reality, we know that Hashem provides everything and even our function to do so. But it is a tendency of our Yetzer Hara, of our evil inclination, to take credit for something we possibly should not take credit for.
Okay, and this is what basically is being said in verse number 18, that you need to remember that God, He is giving us the strength and the wealth to order and to establish all those things that we did, right? So it's something very interesting here, that it might be, there is, I will say, explanation here in this part of the Bible, how we are going to forget God.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. It actually says that we take credit, and when we take credit, we assume that, yeah, God wasn't involved, that we did it on our own. I mean, that kind of just leads us away, does it not?
It is. So when we are feeling good with ourselves, this is what it says here. When we are feeling good with ourselves, we're sitting in our homes, and we're getting, wealthy from day to day, and everything is nice and everything is okay. We're starting to think to ourselves to forget God, to forget Him. We are by ourselves. We understand that, how it says here, that that we say to ourselves, my strength and the might of
My power, my
hands,
might, my hand.
my hands, everything, they accumulated this wealth for me. Okay, I did everything to myself.
Terrible
Now,
pride.
okay. On the other side, it might be that we need to say this thing. Are you sure that it's a terrible one? Maybe it's something that it says, listen good, that you need to say that your strength and your hands accumulate this wealth for yourself. You
Well,
say,
I realize that there are times in life that we have to take action. We have responsibility to respond when we know to do good, and we have that responsibility. But do we legitimately take credit for something? I think, learning from some of your courses, I can say that, we really only make decisions based on the light that Hashem has shone down to us. And I really think, if we take credit for it and say, look what I've done, what makes us any different than somebody who does not know Hashem?
yes, okay. So if I will go now a bit inside to this issue, and we will try to define things, and we will understand. We'll understand it in a profound more way. Okay. The first thing I want to say that we know that people are different and they have different qualities and different abilities, and I think it's in one of the places. One of our great rabbis also wrote down that this is one of the biggest, I will say, biggest presents that God gave us in this world. That not every person is equal to the other one, and that we have people who have the ability to be wealthy, and other people who have the ability to do good things in the wood stuff, and they are building a lot of things from there. And there are people who have a more, good mind to be in the universities and be researchers and to find all sorts of things. And others are good to be doctors. So it is very important to remember that each one and one of us have different wisdom and different abilities,
strength,
and different gifts and different strength of doing things. And when we understand that, and we understand that the one who gave us those gifts, when we went out from our mother's wombs, it was God. Okay? So we're starting to understand, and this is what it says in verse number 18. In verse 18, it says that you must remember that God He gives us the strength, is
The
giving us the
power,
word, the
yes.
power, and everything else. And when we understand that, so we are, we will, be, I will say, we won't forget God. Okay, it won't happen what it says in verse number 14. Okay, that you need to be aware. I think it was 14, right? Just a moment. Wait.
Well, it's 14 says, "Then your heart be lifted up, and thou forget the Lord thy God, who brought thee forth of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage."
Okay.
We need to have a sense of humility. Yes.
And the way to remember this humility is by remembering all the time that all the gifts that we have and everything else is coming from God. So I saw a very interesting, I will say, and I'm going another step inside, okay? I saw a very interesting movie on the Facebook a few days ago, okay, of somebody who is cutting the tree down, okay? So he took the saw and he, it's today, it's an electronic or electricity one, so you don't need to work very hard because it's working by itself. And he did a lot of things. Now let's think for a moment that this sower by himself will say, I'm cutting the tree. But we all
He's
know.
definitely putting in the energy. I know he's expending a lot of energy.
Yes, but who is doing it? This I will say this part of the metal who is working like the machine. Okay, the machine. It's only under the hands of the man, and it's doing what the man is doing. It's just doing it much faster and harder than the man. Okay, but it's not working by itself. If this sower, okay, this is how we call it, right? This machine, okay.
Well, you'd call it a chainsaw.
Chainsaw, okay.
A chainsaw. Yeah, those things. Here, I live in British Columbia, Canada. Chainsaws are quite commonplace out here. We have a lot of people with wood fires. We have a lot of cabins, beautiful Rocky Mountains. It's gorgeous. But with those wooden fireplaces, yeah, chopping wood is a normal and common thing. You'd have an axe if you want to split it to size, but you need a chainsaw, and a chainsaw, these things cut right through trees. But I get where you're going with this.
Those chainsaw, they are not by themselves. They can't come and say one day, we are doing everything. You're not doing anything. You're only under the hands of man who is holding you. Okay? And this is exactly what's happening here. We got a lot of gifts from God. Now the question is, are we using it in the right way? In the right way that God is asking us to use. And now I'm skipping back to 2 meetings ago when I spoke about the eagle wings, if you remember, that God is afraid, from men, because man can do things against God, okay? And he can do things with God. But when you're getting a lot of gifts from God, and he's giving you the ability to decide in which way to go, you can forget God and think that you're doing by yourself, but it's only like the chainsaw who is working and saying that he is doing everything. But we all know that he is only part of what man...
A tool. He's just a tool. And imagine a tool saying, hey, look what I did.
Yeah. So the same thing, when we understand that we are just a tool, okay, and we need to use our abilities in the right way, okay, and to see things eye to eye, to bring the world to a better world, to behave normal and right way with our neighbors, with the people around us, and to use our abilities as tools to the good things in God, okay? And then we understand, so we're not losing, we're all the time thinking that we are just the tool of God in this world, okay? This is how he is working. Now, it's amazing to think about this, that when we jump, I will say, I will show you a secret, okay? That people don't really know. People don't really know that, okay? Let's jump for a moment to Genesis, okay? Chapter 1 of Genesis, okay? And it's amazing. People don't know that because it's a bit of a magic words, playing with the words. in the Hebrew words. Okay. If we
Chapter
will go,
1?
chapter 1. If we will go on chapter 1, and we'll see in verse 16. Okay, where God is putting the lights on the.
And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the
I'm asking
stars.
now. I'm asking you. Those are two great lights, or one is a great light and the other one is a smaller one. What do you say?
Well, he called them both great lights.
Okay, so people don't really see when they're learning it. I will tell you what in the Hebrew nation we are saying, okay? It says
Okay.
like that. God created two great lights and they were similar. There are two suns out there. And then came one of them, the moon, okay, came in front of God and said to God, it's not appropriate that there will be two kings together. So God said to the moon, you're right. You know what? You're right. So go and tiny yourself to be only a moon. That's it. And the other one will stay a very big one. So she got, very upset, the moon. She said to God, why I need to be tiny myself? If I said good thing, and it's not good that there will be two big lights, it's not proper that two kings will be together here. So maybe she would get smaller. So God said to her, you know what? Because you got very upset, I will give you also the stars. The stars will be with you and not with the sun. Now, okay, so we started with two big lights, but because there was a jealousy there, okay, that the moon was jealous a bit, she got smaller one, and then she got also the stars. Now, in the Hebrew words, the word sun is it's similar to the word tool, okay? It's like the word shamash. I'm not by myself, I'm only a tool for someone else. And this is what it says there. The moon is saying, how come two kings are together here? Okay?
Right.
But in front of God, the Almighty King, you can't speak that you are king. When you understand that only a tool, you are very big. You're like the sun. When you don't understand that, you're quetching down to be only a moon. Okay?
Wow.
And this is connected also to the words that we are speaking here. Now we're starting to understand the logic of the Hebrew nation. When we are speaking about one of the most important things is to remember God in things that we are doing, okay? And to not to forget Him, not to forget that He's giving us just a moment, let me quiet this down. I think that you also hear this. Oops, that's it. When you understand that you are just a tool and all the things that you got from God, those are things that giving you strength and the power of doing good things, and you trying to understand what is the best way of working and doing in this world, then you're managing, I will say, to shine like the sun. And the sun in the Hebrew word is shamash, shemesh, that you are just helping, assisting others. When you're doing this and you understand that you got all of your abilities and all of your strength and all of your wisdom and everything else because God gave this to you, then you all the time remember God. All the time His presence, I will say, His presence is with you inside. And then you can say without any fear, okay, my strength gave me this to do because I remember that God gave me this strength to do those things to others.
Wow. I guess the hardest thing for us must be to just know what we are to do. We're such a multifaceted being, if you will. And I guess that's why I find myself leaning towards Torah is needing to know precisely what I should be doing in specific situations. We can talk about a a chainsaw cutting it's designed for that. It's designed to cut trees. It's designed to cut wood. It's designed to be portable and to do those sort of things. For us as human beings, we're so multifaceted, and if we have our freedom to choose, and even if we select the right moral position, there's still so many different things we can do. Does life just come at us like a wave and we have to respond, or do we need to be proactive?
No, it's a good question. We need also to be proactive, okay? This is what God is asking us. I'm reminding you, and we spoke about this also. So let's go back to Genesis in chapter number 1. And we will see, no, it's not chapter number 1, it's chapter number 2. Okay, chapter number 2. If open, please, chapter number 2.
Yeah, what verse?
And we will see that when God finished to do all the heavens and earth and everything was completed, okay, and
yes.
verse number 3, okay.
And God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because that in it he rested from all the work which God in creating had made.
Okay, so in our, I will say, in the Hebrew translation, it's not what he had made, but God created to do. To do. And the issue is that he is asking, he stopped now, okay? He is sitting down, he is sitting backwards, he created this, I will say, nature, and now he is demanding from us to do things, okay? And there was also a very interesting debate between Rabbi Akiva 2,000 years ago and one of the big Romans in his time, when this Roman came to Rabbi Akiva and said to him, whose things are much more preferable, are much more good, man things that he's doing, he's creating, or God's things? And Rabbi Akiva, amazed him and answered him that God's things are much less than the human being things. So he asked him, how come you say that? Look at the stars, look at the heavens, look at the sky, look everything. So Rabbi Akiva answered him, but if you will look what God have done here in this world, he put a lot of seeds and a lot of wheat in this world, but he didn't give us bread. We need to do this. We need to do bread. And this is also what it says here. He gave us sheep, okay, and we have a lot of all these things that we can do to
wool.
To do the clothings, okay. So we're doing a lot of things here in this world, and this is what is said here. In our translation, it says, if I will say it in English, okay, it's in Hebrew it says the right word, la'asot, asher bara Elohim la'asot. From now on, you need to do things. And in the English translation, is God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it. For thereon he abstained from all his work. He abstained from all his work that God created to do, that we need to do now. So we need to be active. And each one and one of us have to take upon himself to do active things. And when he is trying to be reunited and to look, I will say, with the eyes of God and the right things to do with humility with himself, and to do good things to others, to his neighbors, and to his neighborhood, and to his country that he's living there, to build up a family, to grow up kids for the next generations, to do good things for the next generation. If he is a doctor and he is doing good things by healing people, if he is, I will say, a high-tech person who is doing things for the humanity, for the continuous, whatever he's doing, he needs to do things for good for others, and he's doing it with the right, I will say, point of view of the right relationship with God. So he's using his tools, like we spoke before, the saw chain, the chainsaw. How do you call it? Chainsaw. That is only, I will say, using the tools that he got from God to do good things, and God will empower him with more blessings So you will
I
manage
see.
to do more things because this is how the world is working.
Rabbi, are you saying, okay, that the purpose for each and everything in existence is interwoven into its actual design? Like you mentioned, a sheep, we know, provides wool, but it's there in the sheep. And we need to discover that, hey, there's wool there. It's not just food. It's not just food. There's something there, and it's useful, and it's purposeful. It's like wheat, you said. It isn't, grow bread out of the ground. It grows wheat. And from that wheat, we've learned that, hey, we can grind this to flour and make bread. So there is interwoven purpose into everything in existence. I find that amazing. I've saw in my day and age, especially some people are so confused in this day and age. The idea of, say, a pencil. A pencil is used for writing. That's its purpose. You can draw with it, and that's a good thing. Yes, you can draw. But then I've seen people, if you were a teacher, you were an educator, you were a principal. Have you ever seen a child clean his ear out with a pencil? Right. It's not designed for that, right? It's just you could stir your coffee cup with it, right? It's not made for that. You could get lead in your coffee. You could get something in your ear. Is there positives and negatives there that show us if something's truly honorable that we should choose and something that we should not choose? If something's harmful, like putting a pencil in your ear, I'm sure a doctor would tell you do not do that. I think there's something there as far as
depends what side, it depends on the side you're putting inside there.
It depends how bad the itch is, I guess. I don't know, but it's not made for it, is my point. So when you say that wool, a sheep produces wool, or wheat doesn't make bread, but we make bread out of it. There is an interwoven purpose in everything. When we are in a community, we have a purpose to be a positive effect on that community. That makes good sense. I mean, if we have the understanding of the ethics to move with our freedom to choose and be a positive impact on our family and on our friends and on our environment, that's a great thing.
Now, you ask a very good question, and I want to move on. I will say, if I will summarize for a moment, we spoke about this issue of humility and to understand that how we all the time supposed to be connected with God, to remember that we are a tool, that we can be, as more that we connected with God, we will get more powers from God to use this tool that we are getting for good things. And now we're going another step. And this other step is the question, what are the most important, I will say, things that we are doing that God is asking us to do? And let me surprise you, another step, okay? As usual, I'm trying, every time.
You're doing great. You're doing great. It makes me think.
If I want to surprise you, I will be boring, and then that's it, we'll finish. There is a very interesting, I will say, in our oral tradition, okay? You know that we have an oral tradition.
Of course, yes.
And the oral tradition, one of our great rabbis is saying 2,000 years ago already, more than 2,000 years ago, 2,400 years ago. He says something, he's saying something very interesting. He says, have you ever saw in your life a lion or, any animal who is getting dressed with clothes?
Of course not.
Not. We see from time to time, all sorts of not cats, but dogs of old days.
We see it here all the time. My whole neighborhood's filled with dogs, and people walk around with coats on, especially here in the Canadian winter. You'll see them with coats.
Okay.
My neighbor across the street, she's got a tiny little dog. Her dog actually has a coat with spikes coming out the back. God forbid, heaven forbid, that the dog ever get attacked by a bigger dog. So she has this coat with spikes because the dog is just a tiny little toy dog.
Yes, but it's not his environment, and it's not usual. The normal animals are never putting clothes on themselves. Okay. Now Adam and Eve in Eden, they also wasn't supposed to take any clothes on themselves. Only when they were kicked out from Eden, they got clothes from God, and since then they are wearing clothes. Now another thing, have you ever saw one of the animals that they are taking the seeds, or they're taking the animals that they are catching, and they are putting them on the fire and starting to
Roast
put them as to roast them, or to put them to organize them as breads, or things that we are doing,
No.
This, no.
Yeah, no, they just mingle with nature. And I think you touched on this in the kuzari about being a step above, and there's clarity there that, yeah.
Okay, but now my main question is, again, in Eden, no one was supposed to organize all sorts of, bread or other things. Everything was there. They managed to eat all the fruits and everything else without any preparation. So only because, and this is what this great rabbi is saying, only because we did sin in Eden, we went out from Eden, and since then, we need to have the clothings, and we need to prepare the food. We need to prepare those things. But this is not our uniqueness. Our uniqueness as human being is not by doing those things. Our uniqueness is by doing, I will say, God's will with all sorts of things that He commanded us in the Torah that are related to the, I will say, to the spirituality of life. Because
first state.
Yes.
Like a first state, yeah, I see where you're going with that. So the fallen world that we sort of live in is forced upon us, to sweat from our brow and go through.
Exactly.
I see where you're going.
But
Okay.
This is not the uniqueness of human. The uniqueness
Right.
of human is by doing all sorts of, I will say, actions that are related to the spirituality side that God gave us. And it's starting, the first step is starting by behaving correctly between man and his fellow man. Okay? We spoke about this triangle. We're going back. Man and fellow man. Man and his family, his wife and his family.
Yes.
That it's inside himself. And man with God. And this triangle of things, how to behave, how to react, it's one level above this issue of preparing food and preparing clothing. Okay, that we can see that the animals don't need those things, and in Eden we also didn't need any of those things. So now we have, as you said, we are sweating out those things, but we came to a state of the world today that it's not so hard. You don't need to go to the ship and to take this everything from the ship and to organize your clothing. You're going to the store near you, okay, to the mall, and you can find whatever shirt. This one is nicer and this one is less nicer.
I don't know, Rabbi. I'm a tall fellow. I'm nearly 2 meters tall, and I can't shop at any store. It's very hard for me, and I actually have to spend a lot of sweat to find the right place.
Fair enough, but
I understand.
But today we are in a stage that it's much easier for us. Okay, but again, when we're asking ourselves, when God said to us that He in the seventh day, He stopped everything, and from now on it's our time to do things. Okay, He's not speaking only about taking the wheat and doing the bread, or taking the wool and doing clothing. He is speaking about actions that are related to the spiritual side between man and his fellow man, to do kindness things when you see someone that have difficulties or problems and you can help him, stop yourself and help him, So man with his fellowship, man with himself, with his wife and his family, again, help them, build up a family, do those things. Men with God also a lot of things, to pray to God, to remember that you are only getting tools from God, that you can do those things in this world. And when you understand this life correctly, and you're learning from the Bible, how to react right, you're managing to be on the level of human and not the level of animals. And it all starts is your starting point. So
I heard a rabbi say this week about we need to have at least the level of a donkey, because a donkey knows that God provides the food at least, and we need to be at least on that level. And sometimes it makes me wonder, because do I know more? Can I do more? Should I do more? Where do I start? And
I will I will give you an answer for that. Okay, for example, okay, last Thursday, okay, I got I told you 2 weeks ago that we are connected. Okay, the Noahide that we are holding this Noahide in Israel, we got connected with a very important rabbi and community in the United States.
yes,
and we
you
want
mentioned.
now, and we want now to connect all the people that I know with this, to start to organize this, I will say, community in the United States and Canada together, because we know people from all sorts of places. And so they asked me to give them also a lesson, or to speak with them, to give them, like we're doing now. And they asked me to do that, but they have crazy times. And here's my opportunity to thank you for your kindness with my time. For me, it's only 8 o'clock at night, and for you, it's in the morning. They asked me to be 8:30 at their time. Okay.
In the morning or evening?
In the evening of their time. So the issue is at 3:30 in the morning, I woke up, okay, and I started to give this lesson. But they don't know how to do this technically, okay, and they got confused, a lot of problems. And
Oh
here,
my.
for example, something that you can help all of us, even though you're sitting in Canada, okay, with a technical issue. So we
Sure.
will manage to have, I will say, a link that we can spread to all of the people, and we will manage to have a lot of people on the air. So, okay, I will wake up at 3:30 in the morning to give this lesson. I'm willing to do this. I won't do this every week, but I will do this, twice every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. So we will be together. But from the other side, for example, you know all these technical issues, how to do that, and this
A little
is
bit,
something
yeah.
but this is something that you can put your input inside. Okay, so I'm showing you, for example, things that each one and one of us have the abilities and the things that he can give here, so we can all together bring the world to a better world.
So true. It's so true. And I mean, I look for opportunities. I did a broadcast yesterday with another rabbi in Jerusalem
Yes, I know that.
he's got a large following that's doing very well, connecting all around the globe. And even this week, I spent a lot of my time with a young rabbi who's quite a genius. He spent 30 years in Jerusalem, but now he's in Florida and had no understanding of the technical side. So I put together his website for him. I took, several. It took me, I put about 8 or 10 hours in to
Very
do
good.
that. But just to also start. But I may end up doing some broadcasting with him. The point is, your giftings. When God gives gifts to men, when he created and formed you with unique interests and skills that you've acquired, those are to serve him and to serve him with doors that he opens. And I find, as we read in Deuteronomy, how often do you see people, like especially when you were an educator, how often did you see people go into a career that it really wasn't for them, but they wanted it as a desire? I've seen people want to become doctors or lawyers, and they're never satisfied in their job. They're never satisfied or content. They did it for the money. They did it for the wrong reasons. They did it for the prestige. And there's no degree of fulfillment there. I find that there is a harmony that comes when you're doing what Hashem has built you for, has designed you for, has created you for, and you shine with purpose in that freedom to choose that starting point rather than be distracted and life become a hamster wheel. I always use that analogy often. It can be purposeless at times if you're not doing what you should be doing.
It's true. And You're more than right. I'm speechless now. I have nothing to say because you said such. You nailed it. You nailed it, and you said the right things. And this is, by the way, I want to thank you for this journey that we're doing together, because also in my perspective.
Oh, the joy's mine.
No, but it's again, we together. It's not that you can say that only one side or the other side. And this is exactly how we're starting to have, I will say, the strength, and from one side that we're getting everything from God, and also we're doing our the things that we need to do from the other side. And because we all the time remember that God is part of this issue, and we're trying to do those good things. So we're getting more and more strength, and we are managing to grow up, and to not only by ourselves, but also with others. And we all know that two people together, it's much bigger than just only two people, okay? It's much bigger than that. It's much wider than that. And this is how we're managing to bring more good to the world. I think that if you're asking me, so this is a conclusion of all of the things that we learned in this series of those 5 things. As we know, both of us, next week we're going to have a break, because I'm going out overseas to Lithuania.
Beautiful.
But after that, I'm coming back, and we will organize
awesome.
the next.
I look forward to it, Rabbi. My hands are here to serve. So if you want to do another broadcast series, you let me know. We'll promote it, and we'll go from there. But all I can say is, remember the chainsaw. It runs on gas, and if it runs out of gas, what good is that tool? You can't do anything with no gas. And even if it's electrical chainsaw, if it's not plugged in, it's no good. That tool's no good. So if you're not doing what you should be doing or could be doing, sometimes you're not getting what you need to run on in that purpose, because it's not aligned with what God has. So
excellent parallel. I know, I'm a very good one, an excellent one. I'm going to take this out, those sentences out, and to start to spread this out all over the world.
Well, I remember you got me the one time when I brought up about, we were in the Kuzari class, and I brought up about, I only could liken it to having a driver's license. And you said, yes, and even if you got a driver's license, how about driving a tractor trailer or a bus? It's even different license, or an airplane, a helicopter. All I can say is, when you choose your starting point, okay, it's not just an act of the will, because an act of the will alone can be a misguided perception. I think what you brought out today, that we see that there is wool on the sheep, and we get wool from the there is bread in the wheat. Stalk of grain, in the wheat. There's bread there, but it's not bread. You have to make it into bread. If people would tune into what are their heart's desires, their talents, their life, what is their drives and desire, what has God formed in them, joy can truly be found if they choose to flow with those gifts in service to God, and in a way that meets. I love how you brought out in this series about the triangle between them and themselves and their family, between them and God, and between them and their community, and bringing that well-rounded. I think that helps a lot of people, Rabbi. Okay,
thank you very much. We are trying, we're trying to do those things. So I think that we need to finish here today with the audience. And thank you very much also for this series. And I'm going to put this also on air to the community, to everybody that will manage to see it. I'm going to put it on the internet. And also I will send you also the links and everything else as usual. And see you all hopefully in 2 weeks now. But also, all right, as I said before, that we're going also to go inside to this issue of the American community, and we'll speak about this after that also. I look forward to it, folks. Thanks for joining us for Freedom to Choose Our Starting Point. You can always go back and review the lessons, and we're going to be back in a few weeks with Rabbi Chaim to start another class.
So this is God Overtime Outreach signing off with live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim, and we'll be back with you again soon. Bye for now, folks.
Bye and blessing from Jerusalem.